Chag Sameach. Ze hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. This is the day that God has made. Let us rejoice in it. This is a wonderful celebration of the generations. We celebrate the bikurim, the first fruits, the babies born into our congregation this year. Yasher Koach to Benji and Nathan McLean. Your grandfather, Dr. Naim Dalal, is so proud of you and of your sister, how you each have inherited that Baghdadi trope. Mazal Tov to Nadia Adler, 30 years of music at Holy Blossom Temple. You are a treasure. And Mazel Tov and Yasher Koach to all of our Melton graduates. We are proud of you and the example that you set for lifelong learning. Kol HaKavod to our Pirchei Kodesh Society. You are our longtime and loyal congregants, and you are the lifeblood of our congregation. We invite everyone to join the Pirchei Kodesh Society for Kiddush and conversation right after our service. Everyone is welcome to join, and those who are celebrating 1836, 54, and 72 years, you can come wearing your handsome lapel pins. And maybe you'll share some stories about what brought you first to Holy Blossom Temple and share some memories of what our congregation has meant to you over the years. So you know I can't see you, right? You know I can't see you through my screen. I know you're there. I know I am addressing my congregation that I love. I am calling to mind all of your faces, the faces of the people I know, the faces of the people I care for, but I cannot see you. In my imagination, I can conjure up a full sanctuary, and you can too. The temple singers are on my right, and the rabbis and the cantors, my dear colleagues, are on the bima dressed in white robes, just like the Torah scrolls. In my mind's eye, I can see even the sunlight streaming through our stained glass windows. But here I am, talking to a little green dot at the top of my screen, talking into cyberspace. Life through a screen is hard, and it seems it's getting harder. Last night, my Yom Tov table merged with my sister's Yom Tov table in Boston. My white tablecloth picked up where her soft green tablecloth ended. It was a lovely gesture of togetherness. But our candle blessings were out of sync, and the cousins' conversations were disjointed. Our menus were similar. We compared blintzes and challahs, but we didn't share the Yom Tov meal, not really. We did not break bread together, as we say. It was not an illusion, but not the real deal either. To be honest, it only made me miss her more. And as we prepare for our Yizkor service, let's admit that death through a screen is also hard. A few weeks ago, a congregant's father died. He likely did not have COVID-19, but because the test results did not come back in time for the funeral, I was the only one allowed at the graveside. The service was supposed to be live streamed for the mourners at home, but the line wasn't stable at the cemetery. After the cemetery workers left the scene, I went back in through the gates with my mask and my gloves so that I could FaceTime with the mourners by my own phone, and so that they could at least see their father's fresh grave and say Kaddish for him. I want to acknowledge today those who have been denied the opportunity to go into our cemeteries to honor their dead before the coming of Shavuot. I'm pleased to announce that in careful consultation with our city and our province and with the Toronto Hebrew Memorial Parks, Holy Blossom Temple's historic cemetery on Brimley Road will now be able to be open for limited hours from Sunday to Thursday, 4:30 to 7 p.m. You can call the office for details about how to register for that visit. and the details are also on our website. Brimley Road, by the way, it is 100 years old now, founded in 1920. I also want to acknowledge all of the recent mourners among us who have been denied the opportunity to sit at the bedside of loved ones as they take their last hours, their last breath. I want to acknowledge those who were denied the mitzvah of lifting a shovel of earth to gently and lovingly bury their dead. I want to acknowledge those who were denied a shiva in their home, a home that was to be filled with family and friends, with the comforting warmth of reminiscences and too much food. You have been denied the support that you need and deserve during these first days of grief. I want to acknowledge all the mourners among us who are denied the loving embraces of children and parents and grandchildren. Whether there is a closed border keeping you apart or public health protocols keeping them from you, in your hour of grief, know that they love you. And that is why they keep their distance. One congregant said to me this week, I wish they'd love me a little less and just come in the house already. I want to acknowledge and celebrate the creativity of visits through glass doors and windows, visits from a distance in the backyards, in the driveways, from the balconies. Kol hakavod to our elders who are becoming tech savvy so they can visit with dear ones through a device. We are all doing our best. But life from a distance is not satisfying. It is a glimpse of the life we long for. It's better than nothing, of course, but now that we are nearly 3 months into this pandemic, I can tell that the loneliness is taking its toll. For some, it is an existential loneliness. And I pray that this Yom Tov service brings you real comfort. It is intended with sincerity. It is extended with love. Life through a screen is not the real thing, but the relationships it represents is very real. Those relationships are very real. Don't let them become figments of imagination. Don't let them recede into a place of memory. They are real and lasting. And this is not a virtual congregation. It is a vital and vibrant congregation. Today's prayers and gatherings remind us of it. We cannot see one another, but we know we are still bound up in one another. Today, we reinforce one another's spirits. A new Shavuot poem by Divan Spire. The cloud and the mountain and the stars and the sea. Every broken promise now runs straight through me, has led, is leading to empty, to free. And with absolutely nothing, I am quite ready for everything. Tell your stories, tell each wild one, and the ancestors you have never met, but who will meet you one day, will make a scroll out of you. On this day of Shavuot, we recall a moment at the foot of Mount Sinai when there was no screen, but total and complete clarity. A perfect meeting of God and the Jewish people. The revealing of Torah was open and pure, without interruption or hesitation. There was a seamless giving and receiving, so much so that we almost forgot who was giving and who was receiving. They began to blur. It was just a moment then, but an entire festival called Shavuot is devoted to celebrating that moment. Because ever since then, our attachment to God has been through a veil. Our understanding of God's truth has become muddled and hazy. Every generation since Sinai, another screen goes up, and we are further from that moment when all was revealed and all was received and all was beheld and all was embraced. In this way, we are poorer than our ancestors, significantly, spiritually diminished. When Moses came down the mountain, Vayitein al panav masveh, he drew a veil over his face. Our Torah tells that whenever Moses went in before the presence of God, he would take off that veil. But when Moses came out to address the Israelites, what he had been commanded, we would see how radiant was Moses's face. And so he would draw the veil back over his face. Shavuot is a dance of meeting and distancing, of direct revelation, panim el panim, face to face, and drawing down the veils. The screens go up and the screens come down. We step forward in love, we retreat in fear. In preparation for the receiving of Torah, God instructed Moses to set boundaries around the foot of the mountain. You shall set bounds for the people around them, saying, beware of going up the mountain or even touching the border of it. And so today we acknowledge that there is a time to draw near and there is a time to distance oneself. As I mentioned in last night's really terrific cross-Canada Tikkun Leil Shavuot, across the Reform movement, that verse from Kohelet, that wisdom, Eit lachavok ve'eit lirchok mechabek, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, as painful as it is. There is one more veil I wish to mention as we prepare for our Yizkor memorial service. That is the veil which is drawn between the living and the dead. Some memories, some days are so clear, it's as if we are together again. Something can trigger it, a smell of his cologne, a photograph of a place you once traveled together. And then you're right back there in her arms, in his protective embrace. We are right back there in her kitchen, in his car. Those moments of meeting when the veil lifts. Those moments are sometimes received like little gifts, and sometimes I understand they can be startling too. But they never last for long. Not the reunion, and not the fear. The veil drops to protect us. The curtain closes. And the realm of the dead and the realm of the living are as far from one another as heaven from earth. Yizkor is one of those precious moments of searching and finding, of drawing nearer and lingering for just a moment in the company of our beloved dead. The Yizkor of Shavuot is a gift of meeting, just as Moses lifts the veil when the presence of God, in the presence of God, the veil which keeps us from really being in the presence of our beloved ones is also now lifted for just a few sacred moments when we long for real connection, when our desire is for real meeting. What do all these veils have in common? The screens we depend upon for moments of meeting during a global pandemic, the veil worn by Moses, the boundaries set at the foot of the mountain to keep the people at a distance, the curtain which is drawn between the worlds of the living and the dead, where the souls of the dead live eternally now. This screen, this veil, this boundary, this border, this curtain, they are all for the sake of our protection. Although they disrupt and interrupt our abilities to love and be loved, they are also evidence of God's loving protection. And so today we ask for God's blessing. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. Lift up your countenance upon us. Just as Moses pleaded, Hareini na et kvodecha, let me please behold your glory. We gather on this holy day to draw nearer to our God, to draw nearer to one another, and to draw nearer to those who have gone from this life. For a few moments, let our worlds converge. Let there be reunion. Let there be real meeting, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. Amen. We turn to the Yizkor service now, page 340.